If you're going to fall asleep through anything, that's where it'll be. That's okay. You'll pick it up in the astral, and you'll actually keep doing it. You just won't remember that you're doing it. These will allow you to amplify the currents that you're bringing through. When you get through with the techniques that are in this entire course, then we're going to have the Vecca codes. The Vecca codes are the new technologies that they're giving to us to amplify the heck out of what we're doing with the rest. And what we will finish with tomorrow is an introduction to something called the Akasha. The Akasha is the God seed code. It's the highest Vecca code out of all of them. And the Vecca codes are the highest out of all the mathematical programs in a 15-dimensional matrix. The Akasha code is a code that connects, mathematically makes the connection between the primal sound field and source. That's the level that one's coming from. There are 5 other Vecca codes beneath that correspond to the primal sound fields and primal light fields and to D12. And we're going to begin to work with those. When we begin to work with those, we'll learn more about what that means tomorrow, and I'm going to be learning more about what that means tonight, because there's a whole bunch of data that I have to transmit. I know how to run them, but as far as the theory that goes with them, we're getting a dose of that tonight. The currents that you just started to feel, and maybe some of you didn't feel, and maybe some of you did, you will begin, if you work with these techniques, to begin to really feel frequency. And you'll know what it means to run frequency. After about a year of working with various techniques, you'll start to really be confident in running frequency, and you'll also be able to feel what other people are running without even trying. You walk by people and you'll feel it. And your brain will go, Triadic Phase 1? Okay. Oh, how are they doing that? They must be somebody important if they're running that without knowing how to do Kathara. You know what I mean? You'll be able to find these things. There's 2 things before you leave that I wanted to give you real quick. And one of them I just need to find the page on. Can I have this, please? Okay. It's the color chart. I just want to point out that page and run them real quick, and I'll just read them off real quick and show them the page. But that's like, they can start playing with stuff if they know where that is. Is it in the index?
I don't know.
It should be in the diagrams index, I think. It is. It's in the somewhere in here.
76.
76. Okay. That's the one I'm looking for. That's the one I'm looking for. Okay, on page 76, here's the key to the kingdom, one of them. I just want you to have that and know where it is. It's the dimensional frequency color charts. So if you want to start playing with frequencies, it helps to know the colors and what they correspond to. Dimension 1, I'm just going to read them down. Dimension 1 is the red wave spectra. Dimension 2, orange. Dimension 3, yellow. Dimension 4, green. Dimension 5, blue. Dimension 6, blue-violet, or indigo. Dimension 7, violet. Dimension 8, gold. Dimension 9, silver. Dimension 10, blue-black. And then we're getting into a black light spectra here, so it's like a deep sapphire kind of color when you're visualizing it. D11, silver-black, which is like a deep, dark silver color. D12, pure white. D13, these are where they get fun. Pale turquoise, these are the primal light field frequencies. Pale turquoise is D13, it's called the blue flame, but it's pale turquoise. Chakra 14, or dimension 14, is pale yellow, the gold flame. It's a pale, very beautiful pale yellow color when you visualize it. And D15 is magenta pink. It's like a pale magenta color pink, like a, how do you describe magenta? Like wine red color, you know, purpley red, mixed with white to make it pink instead of dark wine color. Right? It is a pale pink kind of color. That is the D15 frequency. I wanted you to know what these were. So at least now, you know some of the parts. You also know if you want to look more at them, you know, in the book, you have the information with you so you can play with it tonight. But if you know where the color chart is, you can begin to explore or play with it. If you want to just play with what it means. If you want to look, here's a little thing you can do when you get home. If you want to get an idea of what's hanging out in your field in D2, well, you know where your second chakra is, right? bring up Maharic Current, and you can use a Maharic Quick Seal. Look in your index. It shows you where the Quick Seal technique is. You can use that tonight. If you want to, you can play with the techniques that are already in there. If you want to play tonight when you go home. You may be too tired to even care when you go home. But if you want to, you can play with them. But if you want to investigate the color spectrum, start using your chakras. Bring up your Maharic Current, because it helps you access currents to begin with, like where you can actually get into the chakras, but it also protects you at the same time. And then project, you see the pale silver frequency running through you and around you, and then put your attention, focus your attention down there. Give a symbol for yourself, like a little spaceship you're going to create for yourself. Make it a bubble of light, or make it fancy. I mean, you could make it a Maserati car or something if you have a liking for those. Whatever little symbol, and stick a piece of your consciousness in it as a spark of light, and put it in that chakra. Now, if you want to visualize what's in that field, find out what's hanging out in your fields, you can start investigating by, once you have that little visualization of a little spark of your consciousness in a symbol that you create, put in the chakra you want to investigate its dimensional correspondence, D2, put it in chakra 2. Then you would imagine that you're moving that symbol out with your consciousness in it into a yellow. Lights are orange, light spectra. Red, orange, yellow. Yes, orange, light spectra. Okay, this is where the colors, at the beginning of where the colors become important. You can check out what's hanging out in the fields by literally scanning in a particular color. You can move through the chakra, put your consciousness there, and move out away from you. And you can see try to see what's in the room at the D2 level. You could do it at the D4 level, but I'd suggest start at the D2 and 3 level first, because sometimes you won't want to see what's at the D4 level right now, because that's where you get a lot of messes happening, a lot of interference. You might scare yourself half to death and say, I don't ever want to see what's up there again. Okay. And the other thing I just wanted to do, I wanted to sing this for you before you go, for the ones who don't know, the Ria Kumnare, because this is a tone grid that will begin activating the 8th subharmonics in all of the strands, and it will begin triggering, let's say that when you start the car and you have it warming up, waiting, what is the name for that with a car? There's a word for that I'm looking for. Idling, that's it. It will begin the 8th strand template, idling, which means it will begin to send little frequencies down to the 8th subharmonics. And when you work with these songs, and then tomorrow we're going to learn something that is my most favorite song that I've heard so far. It's called the Song of Lyra. The Song of Lyra has more words to memorize, but we also have the English translation of what it means. It's the Christos invocation, and it's extremely powerful. We start with this one, the 8th subharmonic activations, and the 8th strand activation songs. And then we will go, it's not in the paperwork yet, but it's going to be, the Maharada song is going to be in there tomorrow, and that's the Song of Lyra. This is the Song of Orion. And there's reasons for that. When we get into understanding the Kathara Grid and the stargates, and how they pertain to the stellar systems up there, D8 gate is the Orion gate. So that's why it's called the Song of Orion. The Lyra gates, there's 3 of them, and the Song of Lyra works with those 3. Now what page is that on? Do you have that? 6. Will you sing this with me, my friend? My voice is getting a little scratchy, so I'm like, uh-oh. I just want you to hear it. For those of you who don't, have never heard it, just so you have an idea of how it goes, so you can play with it if you want to bring those frequencies into the body. Page 6 up here. Sing it together. There's 4. There's 5.
I haven't get on the words for this yet.
I have, but I like to follow along with it. It's not in here. It's not in my book. It's not in here. It's not in my book.
Because that's
anyway,
the Mylar.
let's go.
That's why.
Okay, let's go. Anyway, we know it. All right, what I wanted to look at it was because I want to point out what parts of it we're going to sing and what part you don't need to worry about yet. Because there's several verses, and then there's overtones and undertones. We haven't even tried it. We have tried, and the reason we don't teach it yet in a group setting as far as doing all of the overtones and undertones is because we sound like a really, really bad choir when we try to do it. It's going to take a lot more practice of, when you look at that page, at page 6, and you'll see verse 1, that's fine, we can do that. Verse 2, we can do that too. Then when we get into part 2 and part 3, these are actually bass tone and overtones that are sung at the same time, which are completely different words and a whole different rhythm, that are sung at the same time as verse 1 and 2. And it gets very, very confusing. So it's not important to use them yet. Eventually we'll learn to play with those. But right now, what's most important are verse 1 and 2. They have the activation sequences that will open the 8 subharmonics and the 8th strand activation. So this gives you a temporary 8th strand idling where it starts to buzz, it starts to hold frequency and starts to transmit little bits, and it gives you little nanosecond bursts of 8th subharmonic activation in all of the strand templates, which begins an 8th dimensional communication, electrical communication between you, yourself, and you, between your D8 level, which is your monadic level of self, and which is a part of your oversoul, the center of your oversoul, and your soul coming down through your soul, coming down to you. And because you're running it after you've done a Maharic seal, liquid light cleanse, you're running it with the D12 frequency. These were given before we had D12 frequency, but these will amplify. They'll amplify each other. Okay? These are also great to sing if you're any place and you start, if you get in a jam or something scary or something's troubling you, if you can just switch to the songs once you learn them, it will start to clear, and it will start to allow your Christos self to come in and help move the frequency around so things feel better. That's why I wanted to share it with you tonight, just so you have it as a tool that you could play with if you want to, and you can hum yourself to sleep with it if you'd like. Okay, let's go. I will shut up and I'll start singing now. Let's start singing.
Together?
Yeah, anybody who knows it is welcome to sing it with us.
Right.
Okay. All right.
We like to sort of speed it up once we get used to it. So if we do a second round, we go a little quicker.
Yeah, we'll do 3 rounds of it. The first round tends to be slow if people aren't familiar with it. The second round picks up speed, and the third round really picks up speed. Now, these were taught, they would be done in rounds with hundreds of people in the ancient days, and we would build a standing columnar wave of sound. And we were able to project through that sound. We could levitate things through that sound. The D8 frequencies were used to open the Orion gates at the times when it was safe to do those kind of things. So the more you use these songs, particularly if you're in a group and you really want to generate some sound frequency, 3 times, you at least need to do them 3 times. But they would do them, you would sit for a half an hour and literally just go round and round and round, and each time it gets stronger and bigger, and you could feel the wave building in your body if you do it long enough. Just like in the Eastern philosophies, they teach you to say Om, Om, over and over and over and over and over again. You're building the signature. When you do that with a whole set of primal tones that comes from the first language, it creates very powerful sound waves, which are light waves as well. Okay. Yeah, what key are we going to do this? We always go, you sing it low and I sing it high. Yeah, I will apologize before the fact because my voice is scratchy already, so I don't know if I'm going to do a very good job at this, but I'll try.
So we'll
it's not.
Right.
Okay.
3 then. 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Omeda Ipa. Slower first. Omeda Ipatama Patama Hedita Hekumna. Omeda Ipatama Tretila Iduramna Tretila Iduramna Durama Hekemta Hekumna Omeda Ipatama. Stay low when I do that. I was doing overtones. Omeda, please. Ipatama, Omeda, Ipatama, Patama, Hedita, Hekumna, Omeda, Ipatama, Tretila, Idurumna, Tretila. We used to do this. Idurumna, Durumna, Hekemta, Hekumna, Omeda, Ipatama. One more. I'll do overtones, okay? Okay. Omeda, Ipatama, Omeda, Ipatama, Patama, Hedita, Hekumna, Omeda, Ipatama, Tretila, Iduramna, Tretila, Iduramna, Durama, Hekemta, Hekumna, Omeda, Ipatama. You learn to move with it. All right? Once you learn the tones, they have a life of their own, and you'll start finding overtones wanting to move through, which I was trying to put some of those in to show where, you have one group of people would do like the lower octave, and then the higher one comes up, and then you start where there's actually a movement that wants to come through with them, and you end up with being going, Omega, and you have all sorts of wild stuff coming through. We haven't got there yet with the groups here, but did I almost hit you? This is why I don't use these. I'm dangerous. Okay. Good morning. I apologize for being as late. It was 10:30 when I was still on the last graph on the computer, and it was a real important graph, and I didn't want to leave you without it. We got that far, so I figured we might as well finish it, and we did. We have it on disk, and we're getting that handled. So by this evening, before you leave, you should have the pages in hand. If it wasn't important material, I wouldn't have bothered, and I wouldn't have taken the chance of being late. But this material and the techniques that go with it have the ability to amplify the heck out of the currents you're going to learn how to run today. And I didn't want to leave you up here without knowing about these when they're starting to use them down in the States. They don't have you'll have more paperwork on it than the people in the States have right now. But there's something called the Akasha Code, which is called the God Seed Code. And there's a procedure for using this and something else called Vecca codes. That is some of the most important work that's been given so far. It's important for the Kathara Healing Program. It's also important for the Roundtable program. So this is what you're going to get as we go crazy trying to get it printed out, get the master done, and get it to Kinko's, and get it all back here, 100 copies of it, so y'all have some. But we won't be covering that material till a bit later anyway. I don't have a hard copy master, and I wouldn't start with that anyway. So we're going to trust divine timing here to get this all balanced. And meanwhile, we have a lot to cover between now and then to get through up to Technique 5 in the Kathara 1 manual. At that point, we'll be starting into the Kathara Level 2 Introduction, which gets into Merkaba mechanics a bit. Now, Kathara Level 2 Introduction was originally put in when we went to England and Ireland this past July, I believe it was. And it was just a very quick getting the techniques, the most advanced techniques that we had, and putting them in. And it didn't have a lot of copy explaining Merkaba. It just had how to do the techniques. The information you're going to be getting that's on that disc right now gets much more into explaining Merkaba. So there will be, paperwork that's more than what you have right now on Merkaba. So they're all kind of interrelated. Kathara Level 2 technically wasn't supposed to be introduced, but we've been given some of the techniques to use with it. So I like to give people state-of-the-art. Whatever it is we have, I like to give you, whatever it is we have. So I apologize again for being so late. I really hate when that happens. That's the Virgo in me. But we're going to start with what page is this? 155 on the bottom. Now, yesterday we left off with running two techniques. We activated the mentor and we ran the liquid light cleanse. So we began the first activations of the Maharic Shield template, bringing up the Maharic Seal, running D12 Maharic frequency. We're going to continue using Maharic frequency throughout the program because Maharic D12 frequency is the carrier wave that's needed to carry the other frequencies from the higher spectrums down through into density 1. What we're going to cover first are something called Kathara points. Now, Kathara points are interesting. They're not the same thing as centers. All right, you have your 12 Kathara centers in the body. These are a little bit different. These are points that regulate the flow of frequency between the Kathara lines. You know the Kathara grid, the 12-tree grid, has the 12 points with the lines in between. Well, these points, when you don't always have to use them, but if you want to, they will open and close them. They're like gate. It's a gate process where if you rub these lines, literally rub these areas in the body, it will throw energy up from the template into the outer levels of the field, so you can get more of the D12 frequency up into the outer part of the field. And then the other set of points are to use at the end of a healing session, where they would close them down and send it back in, send the frequency back in to the Kathara grid. So the Kathara points, they're a small part of the Kathara Healing Program, but they're worth covering. The information on them starts on 155, and we're going to go from there into the charts, which are on, let me see, the charts are on page, they start on 128, I believe. Yeah, page 128, if these are in the right order. Okay, so I'm going to go over real quick what these lines do, what these points do. The Kathara points are mini energy vortices, like little spirals of energy in the body that connect directly to the dyadic point vortices in the level 3 Kathara dyadic point grid. Now we talked about the 3 levels of the Kathara grid, the level 1 12 tree, the level 2 crystal seals grid, and the level 3 dyadic grid. The dyadic grid is the part that's most directly connected to the Merkaba. Kathara level 1 or 2 technically doesn't deal with the dyadic grid, but when we use the Kathara points, this is the level of the grid that we're accessing. Now the Kathara dyadic grid points are going to be, it's good, all right, I'm getting this just incoming, okay? They're telling me something I didn't know. All right, they're telling me that the Kathara points, now that we're getting more of the Merkaba mechanics, that the Kathara points are actually very, very useful when we begin to run later. We're going to be running what are called Merkabic healing exercises, an exercise called the salutations. If you do this set of points before and then finish afterwards, finish with the closing points, it'll actually amplify the effects. And I didn't know this, they just told me this, because the dyadic point grid is directly connected to the Merkaba fields, as part of the Merkaba fields, and the Merkaba fields are part of it. So as we're going through these points, just remember that we can play with them later. I don't know if we'll have time, because there's so many new techniques that I'm going to be introducing tonight, whether we're going to worry about the amplification part. But know it's there, and you can go back to the Kathara points when you do Merkaba salutations, and use them, the opening points before and the closing ones after, to amplify what you're doing. All right, thank you. Okay. All right, now stimulation of the Kathara points through manual massage, just rubbing them a bit, affects the movement of energy within the related areas of the Kathara grid and body systems. What it begins to do is circulate the energy, the Maharic frequency, that you've brought up into the Kathara grid level 1. It begins making it circulate between those crossbars and those lines between the spheres. Used in sequence, the sequence 1 Kathara points are for regeneration. They open the energetic gateways to the Kathara lines of the Kathara level 1 12-tree grid to allow new realigned scalar patterns from the Maharic shield to run through the Kathara lines and Kathara grid for core template repatterning. Now, what that means is sequence 1 Kathara points, they help to regenerate. They are bringing up into the outer levels of the field the flash line sequences that go with the D12 frequency. So they are bringing, if you don't use them and you run the Maharic seal, you will temporarily recode your level 1 Kathara grid, but it will stay in the centers. It will take a while for it to begin to move through the grid lines, down through the Kathara lines, and it will take even longer for it to come up into the dyadic grid and the outer layers of the template. So when you use in sequence the Kathara 1 sequence points, it will bring it fast down through the Kathara lines, which will send it up more quickly into the outer dyadic grid points. Now, the sequence 1 Kathara points create more lasting but less immediate effects. All right, so the energy isn't going to go all the way up into the field far enough where you're going to get very rapid healing effects, but the effects will be more lasting. It will make the D12 frequency stay in the grid longer. The Kathara 2 set of points, and go to the next one, please. Thank you. The Kathara 2 set of points do the other. Okay, sequence 2 Kathara points are for revitalization. They close the Kathara lines. Once you've got the frequency in the Kathara lines and starting to run through them, they close those and in the 12th tree grid, and then they channel the energy into the nadial lines of the outer bioenergetic field. We'll talk a little bit about nadial lines and what are called radius or radial lines that have to do with the radial body, which is a new material that was given to us. But this brings the frequency of the D12 more fully up into the outer layers of the field. Now, the outer layers of the field are closer to manifestation. They're closer to what your hologram is here. So when you work with the outer layers of the field, which is what most other healing modalities do, they work with axiotonal sometimes, and they work with meridian lines and acupuncture points and all those things. Those things work with the energies in the outer layers of the field. So they can create temporary healing results. But what happens with the traditional modalities is they don't last because the Kathara grid distortions come up and put the distortions back. Now, if we use just Kathara grid programming without using these points to bring the energy up into the outer field, you'll be recoding the template, and you'll be creating the template for healing in the body, but you're not going to find as immediate results. You're not going to, somebody has a headache and you start using this. If you use these points, you'll find the headache goes away much more quickly than if you just use the Kathara, running the Kathara frequencies. So the points are important. They give you a little more control over what effects you're trying to get. If you want, more immediate healing results, you would use the Kathara grid line points. What we tend to do is, simply because the effects are good, if you use both of them, it actually gets both sides, the inside of the Kathara framework and the outside of the fields. So we tend to start with one and then close with the other one. We fill the Maharic frequency into the body, into the lower Kathara grid templates, and then when that's done, at the end of a healing session, what we would do is use these points, and then any extra energy that's running through in the Kathara grid will be channeled up in the into the outer biofield. So it will, assist in healing at both levels. I'm not going to spend too much time on these. We'll go through them once, and this is where you get to rub yourself. You sit there rubbing, spots on you. The Kathara points are interesting because they're in a little bit different place in everybody's body. They're in the same general region. And because some of them are hard to find, some are very easy. They're touchy, like the other points, where if you rub them, you can feel, there's a little ow, if you push too hard. Some of them you can rub until you have a red spot and you're not going to feel where they are. So in the areas that they're located, it's best to just use a few fingers, and you don't even have to activate your currents yet to do it. So you don't have to go through the processes we're going to go through after this to activate current. You can actually just do it even with your regular currents running. You would just use like 3 fingers, and if it was a head one, let's say, you just rub. Not just the point, but the whole area, because it's somewhere in there. So if you rub the whole area, you're stimulating with vibration. What you're doing is putting a vibration of energy. Movement creates vibration and oscillation of energy. So you're affecting what that center is doing. You're stimulating it. All right? We're going to go to the graphs soon now. No, with these it doesn't. Some applications of different things do, but with this it doesn't. The important part of this is just getting some stimulation in there. I mean, you could even use, those silly things they use for people who like to exercise but don't like to exercise, those electronic things they're coming out with these days. You could even use those. You get your workout at the gym while you're sitting and watching TV with those things, I really wonder what they're doing to the currents and the electromagnetics in the body. I haven't looked into it yet. I'm curious, because it sounds great. Exercise without exercise. Wow. Anyway, okay. And pardon my hoarse voice. I'm getting a little hoarse, but I'm still going. Okay, if I sound a little raspy, I apologize. Okay, there are 14 sequence 1 Kathara points. These are the ones that will assist in regeneration. Regeneration means that's the recoding part. So these will assist in, these are the ones that will open the Kathara lines in the level 1 Kathara grid. It will go through the Dyadic grid, level 3, and into the Kathara 1 grid, and it will begin opening the lines between Kathara centers. So this is the deep template one. This is the one that opens those lines. And then after we go through these, we'll just go through the closing sequence. That's the one that pushes the energy up from the core template into the outer field. The closing sequence is easier. There's not as many points. And it's important to use the sequence that's here. All right, you don't start like at the bottom and work your way up wherever you want. It's the sequence, the combination of vibrational stimulation in sequence in those areas that triggers the activation of the Kathara lines in the template. So the numbers, you just start with number 1. See, number 1's at the top of the head. Oh, I don't know where that little pointer went. That could be useful. Now there it is. Wonderful. I'm getting used to this. I'll try not to whack you this time. I'm not used to using these. Oh. Okay. Number 1 is up here. It's at the crown. Right up here. Kind of weird, that little spiral where when you're a baby your hair grows out in spirals, right there. There's a name for that, and I forget what it's called, but it's right there. You'd rub there. Now 2 and 3 are at the temples. 2 and 3, and those you'd rub at the same time, which I'm not going to do because I'm going to have a microphone in my eyeball if I do that. But you'd rub them both, at the same time. You can do them. You can do them with me now, and I'll do them once more. We can go through them quick. Because ideally, you can whip through them really fast, and you can really, even these, I felt revitalization. I mean, maybe it's just core template, but I've made headaches go away using these. But you need to use the whole sequence, even if it's only your head that hurts, okay? Because it's opening up all sorts of things in the body. It's actually doing more than what is written here. They haven't told me yet, but I can feel it in my body when I use them. I can feel axiotonal lines opening up as well, where there's more current running, just more general energy. So I feel better after I use them, and I hope you have the same effect. So we have 2 and 3, the temples. 4 is at the base of the skull. That's that spot back here that when your 8th and 9th chakras are activating tends to swell and hurt and stuff. Okay, you rub that. That can feel really good. You usually feel like a burst of energy going down this way, and sometimes a burst going up this way. It's worth doing. You could really feel better if you're at work or something in the office. You can very discreetly kind of got an itch, and just really quick run them, or go into the bathroom, and you will feel better if you run them once or twice throughout the day. Even if you're not running anything else, even if you didn't do your Maharic seal that day, you can still use these points, and it helps to even remember where some of them are, because rubbing some of them is better than rubbing none of them. If you're feeling fatigued, these can help clear that space, that energy space in your body better. All right, now 5 and 6 are right below the shoulders. They're right in the areas of the Kathara centers that are there. So really, you would just rub like this. And remember, because they're, any of the ones that are paired like this, you would rub at the same time. The ones in the feet, in the back of the knees, the ones down here. But the ones that are singular, it doesn't matter what hand you use either when you rub the singular ones. Okay? No, it doesn't. For this application, it doesn't matter. When you're working with chakras and things more fully, which Kathara 1 doesn't get into, working heavily with the chakras, that's when it becomes important to know your spins and what direction something's supposed to spin in, and when you rub it, what way you're supposed to rub it. But for this, it's okay to just rub it whatever way it feels good. Okay. Now, 7 and 8 are in the abdomen, in from the hips a bit. And these are a bit hard to find because, especially when you're standing up, because your muscles are tighter here. It's like they're in there somewhere. If you lay down to find these, you'll know where they are thereafter. If you lay down, your stomach muscles relax a bit, and the muscles in your abdomen relax, and you can push around a little, and you'll just feel, sometimes you'll feel a tingle or a little burst of energy from them that's pleasant when you hit them, the ones down here. So you can try that when you get home. With a lot of these things, when you get home and you have some private space, try to find these areas in your body. Try to locate your chakras. Try to locate your Kathara points. Push on the area. See what it feels like. Try to see your chakras. Those kind of things. Anyway, okay. 7 and 8. The in from the abdomen. They're in from the hips in the abdomen. Right in there. 9 and 10 are in the back of the knees. So you would, literally, if you're sitting, you would sit and give yourself a little knee space and use both hands and just rub. There's little chakras behind your knees, and they tend to get very, very blocked during just an average day. So if you rub those, it will help to run the energy through the legs. This will also help people that have any type of varicose vein problems. Varicose vein problems, which is something that I have always had since I was about 20, means the energy flow is constricting in the lower chakras and the lower axiotonals. And if you rub the chakras in the back of the knees regularly, like a couple times a day, you'll find you start to process more energy through those. The feet chakras are also the same. If you have any problems with your legs or varicose veins, or know somebody who does, rub the 2 points there that are chakras. They're little tiny chakras. And these guys, 9 and 10. And then you'd go from there to 11 and 12. If you know somebody that has a varicose vein problem, you could do a whole Maharic Recoding process on them, but if they don't want that, you could at least rub those sequences on them and spend a little more time and energy on these guys. And it will make a difference if it's done consistently, like within a month. If they did it every day, or if you taught them how to do it, or you did it for them every day for a month, they would start to notice that their legs felt better and that they weren't getting as much problem with the varicose veins. Varicose veins and all sorts of things like that are from not enough energy running through the system. It means axiotonal lines are blocked because something under the axiotonal lines are blocked. So all of the problems that become common health problems in our world are because of these blockages. The blockages hit axiotonals, and they're much closer to the surface, and that creates the blockages that create buildups in the chemicals in the body that create conditions in the tissues in the body that aren't meant to be there. Okay? So we have 7 and 8. 9 and 10 behind the knees, 11 and 12. Now these, if you have shoes on, it's a little hard to do it. We recommend taking your shoes off, but you don't have to right now if you don't want to. The soles and tops of the feet. So you'd actually hold the foot. I'm just trying not to wipe out the microphones here. You need 3 hands for this. Okay. You kind of hold the foot like that. You're going to fall over. And rub it vigorously. Do kind of like this, okay?
You don't have to put your feet up.
No, you don't. No, you don't have to put it up in the air. I don't think I got it up high enough for those in the back to see it. I'm not going to try either. I'll fall over. You guys in the back, did you get the idea of what that is? Okay, good. So I don't have to stand on a chair and try to lift my leg up. Okay, great. Okay.
So we gather you don't have to do those at the same time, your feet.
Those you should do at the same time.
You're sitting down then.
Yeah. You'd sit down and basically move from the knees and then go down to the feet. You know, it's a little hard to demonstrate when you're holding the microphone and the pointer at the same time. You can demonstrate if you want, right? When we run, we're going to run through them fast without talking between, and you'll demonstrate, right? Like I'll do the, okay, now we go to this one, now we go to this one, and you'll demonstrate, right? Yes? You don't have to.
I thought you were all bright.
Okay. Okay. The 13th one is at the heart chakra, which is right about here. It's around the breastbone area. And you can usually find the heart chakra because if you use your fingers in this kind of motion and push slowly as you go like this, but push with some pressure, there'll be a little sore spot. That's the area where your heart chakra center is, and it's in a little bit different space for everybody. And you can find that sore spot in there when you press on it because there's crystal seals in there. And wherever there's crystal seals in the body, you're going to find sensitivities to pressure. All right, so if you want to, and you can really do this with any of your chakras. If you want to find the center point in your chakras, and there'd be like a circle drawn around that would be the chakra, you can do that finger motion where it's a certain type of pressure that you can push pretty hard with the fingertips while still having a sensitivity in the fingertips, so you can run the energy right. You can find most of the embodied chakras where the center is, because they are a little bit different position for everybody, but basically they follow the same body area. Okay, the 13th one is in the heart chakra, and the 14th one is the 6th third eye chakra. Okay, that's the 6th chakra, which they call the third eye. That one is here. You can also use this one either running the whole sequence or just this one alone, or this one with the temple ones or any of the head ones, to increase inner vision. When you're doing visualizations, you can send stimulation, into that chakra through that way, and it will help to whatever level of inner vision your DNA is capable of giving you right now. It will amplify that to its highest level without going into heavy technique. Okay. All right, so now we'll run through them real quick. You want to run through them, or you want me to do? Do you want to do the body demo, or?
They've got it already.
I know, but we need to run it through quick.
What do you want me to do?
Huh?
What do you want me to do?
Just rub where I say, or here. Would you like to read them and I'll demo? Come on. I was going to have us all do them together.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh. Would you like to read them and I'll rub them? Just say number 1 and tell where it is. Come on. At our age, yeah. Over the hill and then some. No? Okay.
You're going to stand up?
No, I'm going to sit down. So we do them sitting down.
You're going to sit down.
Okay, yeah. Because we're all going to do them together. As what I'm trying to do is get us all to do them together in a quick sequence without a lot of words in between, so you can get the effect of the energy running. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're going to do about a dozen swirls.
We're just going to do one time through. You can just say the center number and where it's located. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Ready to begin, children? Okay, we'll begin at the crown. Number 1. Gently. Easy does it. About a dozen.
Ow.
Gently enough, don't want you flying off. Okay, hands, fingertips to the temples.
Number 2.
Do it.
Okay. We can move through them a bit faster.
Okay. Now to the base of the skull, either hand. Just
Number what?
Number 4. The bump there.
Oh, that feels good. Oh.
Okay. Hands to the back, points 5 and 6. Just on the pointy bit, just below
They're
the
not in
pointy
the back.
bit. Huh?
5 and 6 are in the front.
Right here.
Here.
Where do you do it? On the front?
Here.
Oh, I do it on the back.
That's hard to do on the back.
Sorry, I just got this through right now. Boys do it this way.
Technically, you can do that on the back, but it's a little difficult unless you're double jointed.
And your boys wearing a bra, I'll see you later. Just here, nice and gently.
Yeah. Next.
Okay. Now to the abdomen, just in, usually a couple of inches in from the hip bones.
Numbers?
6, 7, and 8.
Thank you.
To do the jumping up and down thing with me.
Wait till we start twirling tonight.
She's been up all night, she's like this now. All right, down to the backs of the knees, points 9 and 10. Just gentle circular motions. They're very sensitive chakras behind the knees, actually. Just be gentle.
Yeah. Unless you're really tired, then rub them with all your might. Yeah, get your energy back. That's what I do.
And one I do.
You rub harder than I
Right,
do.
soles and tops of feet.
Oh, this is fun. It's going to be harder than making my pocket.
And then point 13 up at the heart.
They can't see me if I'm down there in the back.
And then finally, up to the 6th of a group of third eyes, all lifted.
Point 14, chakra 6.
God, I'm sweating. It's heck when you put me
That's
in
hard,
the
isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it terrible?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Alrighty. Now, we're going to go through the next one, the next set of them, which there's not as many points. There's not 14 of them. We're going to go through the Kathara sequence 2 points. And these are the ones for revitalization. These are the ones where the energy, and even if you didn't run Maharic frequency yet, you're still running base frequency in your body, and you just stimulated it in the core template. You didn't stimulate D12 level, but you did stimulate what you've got. Now when you use these, you're going to kick it up into the outer auric field. So it would be closer to the surface, so you would usually have more of a feeling with it. You would get more feeling of revitalization after it. So if you use just these 2 things alone, as an easy thing, we don't have to worry about running currents and everything. Just those points of massage can be really handy any place. All right, so we're going to run these really quick now. Okay, I lost my pointer. Where do I put my pointer?
That's it, I hit it.
I'm not used to that. You're sitting on it, that's why. Okay. Okay, number 1 and 2 of the Kathara sequence, 2 points are here. They're in the neck, below the ears. And these are some of the hardest ones to actually find. So just rub vigorously in this area with both, on each side, both hands. Just rub in this area and move it up behind the ears a bit. You'll probably, there should be a burst of energy at some point, a little tiny burst of energy that seems to go down the arm on that side. That's when you hit it. All right, there should be just a little bit of tingle that might go down the arm. You might feel it actually under here, because the axiotonal lines, the way they run. So you're rubbing back here.
Yeah, there's a little indentation in the bone.
Yeah.
Back from the ear.
Yeah, it's back from there. You can trace the indentation where the ear hooks in.
In the bone, just coming back in from the ear this way.
Yeah. But if you rub with 3 fingers, you can put one up in that area and one literally going down to the neck. You'll actually get more of the energy running.
You all got it?
Yeah. Okay, so you'd rub those. And those you can actually play with and rub for a while because it'll open up the axiotonals as well. I mean, I feel the effect in the body. If you rub them and you hit them just right, there's a little like burst of energy that runs. It's a little tingly feeling. And that means you've opened conduits that weren't open at the moment. All right. Now, 3 and 4. These are funny. This is where you get to rub your face below the cheekbones. And these are kind of funny to do. Here, would you hold that, please? Thank you. These are like...
I always do them here.
This can feel really good, and it can also... When you
Hold it like that.
okay. While you're these in the face, while you're rubbing these, they're actually opening up many little meridian lines in the face, so they can actually help the muscle tone in the face as you're getting older. If you do this, even if you're not getting older yet, it will help you not get wrinkles as fast because you're energizing the muscles in the facial structure. So it's like if you start really young, you'll save yourself on facelifts later. You know. Okay, so you go through those two. Number 3 and 4. Thank you. Number 5. This one is at the base of the tailbone. This is the rear view. And that little V that would be your tailbone. Somewhere I have one. Like back here.
Coccyx or the...
Yeah. It's like the tip, the tailbone, and then like down here. On the coccyx, there's a little tiny.
You should be on either side of the tailbone. You just trace it down through this part of your body.
Yeah.
And your fingers will be either side of the bone. On the other cheekbones, as it were.
It's kind of like you can find, you know, the little ball at the tip of your tailbone? If you find that, then move up just a tiny bit with both fingers right on the outside edge of the tailbone, like right where you're not quite on bone. All right, that right in that area. That's the little ball at the end. You just move your fingers up just a little. And usually you can find these points because if you play around with poking around back there, you'll get little bursts of energy running down here. So you'll feel a little tingle running down there. And what's nice is the more you do this, like play with them at home, you'll just know instantly exactly where they are. You know?
Don't do it on the LRT.
Okay. I'm so glad everybody's in such a good mood today. It's contagious. All right. And number 6 is in the thymus, but if you rub right here, which is actually where the 8th chakra is, if you rub there, it sends the vibration in where it needs to be. Right. It's right in the little hole.
Okay, yeah.
Right in the little hole area. If you press too hard, you'll make it so you can't talk or breathe right. But just rub and stimulate the area. I find that instead of trying to find little tiny points, it's actually better to give a good rub to the whole area. That way you're not going to miss it. And eventually you'll be able to find exactly where it is if you push around on your body enough. It's amazing what has been in your body the whole time that you just didn't know was there. And you can prove to yourself that it's there by starting to, investigate your body. This is probably why they told us to never touch our bodies when we were, in Catholic school. We might find something important like our Kathara centers or something. And then there's one other point. It's called an amplifier. It's not exactly a Kathara one of the sequence points, but you can use it to amplify what you just opened up. It'll help to kick stuff up further into the field. And that one is at the solar plexus chakra, which is right about here. It's kind of like in the belly region. Okay. And that should make a warm feeling. You might feel like a warm feeling spread in your tummy. And if you haven't eaten, you might feel like you want to throw up. Because it'll, like if you haven't eaten in a while, and you really should have, you have stomach acids in there that are not really great for your stomach. And if you rub it, it generates heat, and that kind of makes them more active. So if you feel like you're going to go, just stop rubbing it. It'll calm down. Okay. I'm sorry, what?
Below the breastbone?
Yeah, above the waist.
Yeah, it's a little bit low. Like the breastbone is here. It's a little bit, at least mine is right here. It's a little bit down from that. All right. Again, it's worthwhile investigating your body. When you're home alone, investigate where the centers of your chakras are. Now, all of your main chakras will be on the main vertical line, and you will be able to find that center point in them. Like there'll be a larger circle. But you can find the center point where that larger circle is centered on by using the finger pressure thing slowly down the vertical current, because you will find tender spots. And the ones that are right on the main vertical current will be the chakra ones. So you'll be able to find exactly where your own chakras are, because it's usually there's like a 4-inch difference as far as, well, mine's here, where's yours, you know? So it's worth finding where yours are, because you'll be more accurate and specific when you're directing energy. Yet at the same time, you don't have to get hyper about it. You don't have to go overboard with locating things like that, because the intention you're setting when you're working with Kathara healing, even if you can't see something yet, you know the proximity of where it is. Your body consciousness knows exactly where it is. So that's a part of you that already has the information, even if your conscious mind doesn't. If you have a vague idea of where to stick the energy, and you get it close enough, your body consciousness will pick it up and do what you're asking it to do. So you don't have to be, what is the Freudian or whatever term, anal, I think they call it. Yeah, you don't have to get too upset about worrying exactly where your chakras are. Okay, so again, these you would use at the beginning of, you could use them at the beginning of a liquid light cleanse process when you do your Maharic seal and liquid light cleanse. You'd use the sequence one at the beginning and these at the end. You can use these on a client if you're going to do a client session after you learn how to activate the Triadic Phase Currents. That's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to learn how to run the Triadic Phase Currents, and we got to learn what they are first. But these are a little thing that's kind of like an extra, don't have to use it, but it amplifies the effects of what you're doing. Okay. Wow, that was fast. Okay. I want to see how much of this. I'm going to try not to put too much of the pages with words on, and just try to work off the graphs, because we have so much to cover. So I just want to see where I'm here. Use the ones. Okay, we don't need to read this. There's a lot of information that we won't, that I won't have time to cover sentence by sentence. It's in your book, so it's worth reading these books. Even if you took the workshop, it's worth, when you have some time at home, read them in sequence, because you'll learn a lot more. There's a lot of small type that I don't even attempt to try to bring into the workshop format, because it would take a week to give a Kathara workshop. But it's worth reading these things, because every bit of information in these books is a piece of frequency. All right, what the frequency does, and the reason why we work with with putting stuff in detail as much as possible, is because it makes a frequency bridge onto the D3 level, which means it gives your third DNA strand and your third chakra and your mental body awareness a frequency bridge in order to absorb this information, because this information is higher frequency information. The Kathara Healing Program is usually not used by anybody who doesn't have a minimum of a 6-strand activation. It's being catered to what we need here, but it will help you if you take the time to read it, even just once, because you're picking up a frequency bridge as you read. Every letter in this book, every sentence, every word, every sentence is a part of a frequency bridge that if you omit a section, you're going to have a gap in that frequency bridge, and that's going to be a gap in your understanding. It's going to be a gap where, I don't quite get that, oh well, and you would do better learning the whole program and holding the frequency of the Maharic frequency when you're running it, if you have the mental body incorporated into the process, and that's what the books are for. Okay, let's see. I leaped around here. I have these already. We're going to go from that to, let's see. Okay. I think the next page we're going to go to. Yeah. Okay. What we're going to go on to next is really the heart and soul of Kathara Level 1, which are the Triadic Healing Currents. Go to page 163. That's where we're going to begin. And these are worth reading. So I'm going to put the word ones up on these, because they're worth reading. It's 163 on the bottom, and it's page 80 on top. 80. There we go. The Triadic Phase Healing Currents. The Triadic Healing Currents are, tri means of 3. They're composed of 3 different frequencies woven together. They are the heart and soul of doing Kathara healing, because these are the frequencies that you're going to learn to transmit. You're not just going to randomly transmit frequency. What you're going to learn to do in Kathara 1 is transmit something called Triadic Phase 1 current. But you're also learning to transmit Maharic current, which is D12 subharmonics, and eventually it would be full D12 current. when we're doing triadic phase currents, there will be later applications of Kathara healing where there's literally tomes of information. For this type of illness, you would use this current. For this, you would use that current. We don't get that specific here. What we want to do in Kathara 1 is, first of all, learn what they are and know that they exist and begin the process of running them. Bless you. We're going to start with the lowest frequency triadic current in order to build the body's ability to run the higher ones. By the time we get through some of the exercises this evening, even though we're not going to take it into triadic phase, Diuretic phase 1, Diuretic phase 2, Diuretic phase 3, then up to the next level, we're going to be running about nine-dimensional frequencies worth of the currents, even though we're only going to use the first process, because some of the other processes that have to do with the Master's Kundalini activations are going to activate these currents in your body automatically. All right, so for now, you're going to learn, if you want to be able to do hands-on healing, to assist people, and even to assist yourself, you need to learn to open the chakras at the palms of the hands. Now you can command them to open and they'll open, but there's a whole set of things that are connected to those that need to open as well if you're going to run the currents from the higher frequency. Right now, everybody has frequency running through their palms. Now, it's probably very, very low in most people, unless you've done hands-on work, which means you would at least have them open to the three-dimensional level. You can begin to feel the fact that you are running current in your palms. Could you hold this a minute, please? Thank you. By doing this. All right. Rub your palms together for a second, and then stop and hold them near each other. Not touching, but near each other. And then start to go like this. You should feel a little either resistance or fuzziness or a little push against each other. That's a very low level of frequency, energy, that's coming out of your palm chakras. That's without amplifying it. Now, when we get into activating the triadic phase currents, what's going to be really interesting is you're going to learn to open certain things in the body, use the breath, and blow more current down. And what you'll find is this. Neat. You'll see the amplification, you'll be able to feel the amplification. So to be able to do that takes us into two things. First, finding out what is a triadic phase current, and then what do I do with my body to get it to open so I can run it in my palms. Now, triadic phase current teaching starts with the 5 levels of multidimensional identity structure. Remember we talked about the incarnate self here, and the soul, and the oversoul, and the avatar, and your rishi level, all those levels of identity that correspond with the DNA strands, that correspond with the higher frequencies, that correspond with the huva bodies that you have that are in the higher frequencies. Well, the 5 levels of multidimensional identity, the incarnate of density 1, the soul of density 2, the oversoul of density 3, the avatar of density 4, and the rishi of density 5. All right. There are also 3 ascended master level identities. All right. These are in huva bodies and shields that go with them. These exist out in the primal light and sound fields. So you have a stack of identity. This is important to understand its connection to running currents, because if you're where am I getting the currents from, you're passing them down through your identity structure. All right? When you are running diuretic current, which is a density 2 current, you are running your soul currents. They're coming from the soul body. When you're running the toric currents, they're the density 3 currents, so the oversoul currents. When you're running Maharic current, Maharic frequency, you are running the frequencies of density 4, your avatar level of self, etc. So when it helps to understand that you're not just running raw energy that doesn't have a consciousness attached to it. It does have a consciousness attached to it, and it has you attached to it on those higher dimensional levels. So you're entering a co-creative process with your higher identity structure in order to run these currents. Okay? In Kathara healing, we use the various levels of higher dimensional identity to draw in the healing currents from the higher dimensional unified fields by activating the portions of the personal scalar shields. Remember your shields, those discs of light that activate when you bring the frequency through them that corresponds? Okay. By activating the portions of the personal scalar shields, Kathara Grid, and DNA template that correspond to the higher dimensional huva bodies. What this means is you're going to use your soul body to bring in current from density 2. You wouldn't be able to bring it in directly from this body. So you're going to bring it in from your soul body, and then you're going to pass it down from your soul body into your body here, which is a natural energy connection. You're going to pass it down as frequency. Your soul body is going to bring in frequency there in density 2, and then you're going to downstep that frequency. It's going to go through the Kathara Grid, the personal shields, and into the DNA template. The reason why most people on this planet haven't been able to run triadic currents for many thousand years is because you need D12 subharmonics to be able to open the seals between this Hoover body and the next Hoover body up. If you can't open those seals, the only thing you can run is a three-dimensional current from the station that you're in. So we're going to be activating DNA to do this. If you didn't activate DNA, seals wouldn't open. You wouldn't be able to get the currents that you're trying to run. Okay, there are 4 primary triadic, three-dimensional energy currents. So triadic refers to a three-dimensional current. It is a current that is composed of 3 different flash line sequences braided into one. So that's what a triadic current is. There are 4 primary ones. These are the ones that correspond to density 1 through 4, up to the Christos level. There are also other currents that are called primal life force currents, and these are the Kundera and the Kiriche currents that we'll talk about later, that correspond to the primal light fields of density 5 and the primal sound fields of the energy matrix. But first we need to open the ability in our bodies to run the lower currents, and from there we'll be able to build on those currents so we can bring more frequency into the body. Okay, the telluric current is the density 1 current. That's the name of the density 1 current, telluric. The doratic, now remember Dora is a word that means soul in ancient Anahazi. The doratic current is the density 2 current. The turic, oversoul, current is the density 3 current. And the Maharic current is the density 4 current. The Rishik current of density 5 can only be run if you have indigo templates, a full Rishik current. You would have to have 24 to 48 strand template to be able to run any of the ones higher than this. This is why we only teach up to the 4th density current right now. Now most people in this room, because you've been following me so well, and even most people that even come to these workshops are usually indigos. So I would assume that you probably have much more to play with after your 12 strands of DNA. But even indigos have to activate their first 12 strands before they're going to be able to play with the other currents that come through on the higher strands. All right. So they're the 4 names. If you know, this is how you know what current I'm running. Okay, I'm going to run telluric current, or I'm going to run doratic current, or turic current, or Maharic current. There are also phases to these currents, and it makes perfect sense. Now think about it. The telluric current, that's the current that's running through density 1, right? Each one of these currents has 3 phases. Guess what the 3 phases of the telluric current are? Dimension 1, 2, and 3 current, right? So telluric phase 1 would be what? D1 current, right. All right. Telluric phase 2 would be D2, right? All right. What would turic phase 2 be?
5. No.
8. 8. Yep. Do you see that connection that I'm talking about? It's very, very simple. You know that each one of these is a density level, right? And it has 3 dimensions in it. All right? Whatever the name is, this is telluric is density 1. That implies there's only 3 possibilities. It's either D1, 2, or 3 current. Phase 1 is D1, phase 2 is D2, phase 3 is D3. It works that way all the way up the stack. So it's not really hard. It's worth knowing how to run them and realizing that they're broken down that way. Right now, it's not going to matter that you know all of that, because you're not going to apply any very specific mathematical things with these currents. There are levels of Kathara, and I think they're probably up in the 8th and 9th level Kathara program. And the rate we're going, God knows when that's going to be here on the planet. But you would actually begin using strange combinations of like phase 1 turic with phase 2 doratic, depending on what condition you were working on. There's a whole list. I've seen some translations of books that deal with ailments, things like what we call cancer and, literally specific ailments, that there are sequences of very specific currents to run. Those books aren't translated yet, and there's other things that are more important to learn first before we'd be able to use them effectively anyway. But it helps to understand. The reason we're giving you this amount of detail now is so it doesn't come as a surprise and be, well, what do you mean? You'll know that there's more to come after this, and you'll know where the pieces fit again. And that's what Kathara 1 is about, learning where the pieces fit. Okay, what's the next one?
The next one is the PBIS nervous system.
Okay, yeah, we'll put that back up.
This is back out, we skipped a whole bunch of phases, right? Skipped a whole bunch of phases.
That one should be there, because it's showing where the currents are coming from. Yeah. Yeah, and again, here's our 15-dimensional time matrix diagram. This time it shows the dimensional stack, and it shows the levels of self-identity that are in them. Okay? So you have your incarnate, your soul, your oversoul, your avatar, your rishi. These would be the currents you're running. Here you'd have your telluric current. Here you'd have your Triadic current. Here you'd have your turic current. Here you'd have your Maharic current. And here you'd have the Rishic current, which is something you don't need to quite worry about yet. Now, we're going to be working with Rishic current when we get into the Ki-Rishi activation sequence. Ki-Rishi is another word that goes with Rishic current. Ki-Rishi current is the current of the combined 3 primal light fields. So there's going to be a technique that we use later. There's one in the Master's Kundalini activation technique. It takes forever, but you only need to do it once. Once you get this stuff open, you don't have to do this whole sequence of things again. What it's doing is getting making you able to run the subharmonics of this. Even if you're not an indigo, you can bring them into your auric field around the template. You won't be able to fully activate them in the DNA if you don't have an indigo imprint. But you can still amplify the heck out of your field and your currents. So this is something we're going to use later. We're going to get into not running them. You're not going to be able to run them right now through your palms or anything like that. But you will be able to bring these currents into the field, into your biofield. Okay, let's see what's next. We're getting close to doing it. We actually get to do the currents. What do we have there? Is this something I need? Okay, they already know that stuff. We covered that. Yeah, we can skip that because they know that already. Now, let me see. Okay, how about page 147? Kind of recapitulates what I said and a little more. Yeah, I'll start on page 147. Now, that's page 84 left. On there. You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That is that one. Wait a minute. All right, it's the one right after I think I want to go. Yeah, I'm going to run through this quick. This is what I was just talking about, but I'll explain a little bit more. Okay, the 4 primary triadic currents and Huva body correspondences. We have the telluric current. That's the Nada Huva body, the density 1 Huva body. That's your telluric shield, right? Dimensions 1, 2, and 3 current. Phase 1 is red. That's a red current. You want to direct it. When you're directing red energy, you're directing phase 1 telluric. Okay? Phase 2 it actually looks orange-gold. We call it orange. It's orange-gold. Phase 3 is yellow. Triadic current is the alpha Huva body, density 2. The Triadic shield, dimensions 4, 5, and 6. Phase 1 is green. Remember the color chart that I had you look at before, where it told you what color the chakras were and those kind of things? Well, the same thing here. These are the colors of the dimensional frequency bands. So phase 1, Triadic current is green, which is the 4th dimensional current. Phase 2 is blue, 5th dimensional current. Phase 3 is blue-violet, 6th dimensional current. Blue-violet is really indigo. All right, we call it indigo, but it looks blue-violet. So the reason I've put an extra color with some of these is to give you a visual, more of a clear visual on what color you would visualize when you're using these. After a while, you get used to, if you're visualizing indigo, that means blue-violet. If you're doing orange, it's really an orange-gold. So you get used to these. But when we're running the currents, it's how we are intending to visualize color that is going to be the director of the currents, to make sure you're selecting the right currents. Turic current is coming through the beta Huva body, density 3, the turic shield, dimensions 7, 8, and 9. Phase 1 is violet, D7. Phase 2 is gold, D8. Phase 3 is a mid-tone silver, that's D9. Okay, it's dark silver, but that's hard to imagine. How dark is dark? So I said a mid-tone silver. So you think of very light silver, it's not that very dark silver. It's not that. Mid-tone silver. You'll get your own probably visual shorthand going with this. Once you start working with this program, your own higher parts, your higher consciousness will begin to show you colors, so you know what it means in your system, because everybody perceives color, perceives frequency a little bit differently. So you will fine-tune what exactly those colors are. You may find 3 different little subharmonic colors in them that nobody else sees. But these are the base colors that you will be seeing or visualizing, even if you can't see them yet. These are the ones you'll be intending. One very good way to learn how to visualize color is to stare at something that is that color for a bit. Close your eyes, try to see it. Stare at it again and kind of inhale it, because you're taking in the energy signature, and then throw it up into the 6th chakra and exhale it out and kind of In the back of your forehead. Okay, there it is, inside your forehead. If you play with that, you will increase your ability to visualize in general. If you want to hold forms or shapes better, if you want to be able to visualize better, play with staring at things for a while. Take a key and hold it up close and just study it and get the impression, and then close your eyes and see if you can bring up the image of that key. Little things like that will help to trigger subharmonics in the DNA on a more regular basis, which will eventually help you to be able to have a better ability to visualize at will and to visualize more clearly. Now, even if you're not being able to see yet, even if you don't have the inner sight opened, that's all right, because by intending the color, you're still going to get it, but you're going to get more intensity the more real it is to you. The more you can see it, the more frequency you're actually bringing in on it. So it's worth trying to learn to see color more clearly and learn to see with the inner vision more fully. Something simple as staring at an object, closing your eyes, and trying to see it again. That begins the process of developing the inner vision. Okay, Maharic current is the Mahara body. Maharic shield, dimensions 10, 11, and 12. Phase 1 is blue-black, sapphire. It's a sapphire current. Phase 2 is a silver-black, which is like a darker silver. That's why we have mid-tone silver up here. We have a dark silver here. And phase 3 is white. Now, when we're doing full Maharic current, we're running pale silver. The D12 Maharic current, which includes D11 from the parallel, as well as these from one system. That's where you get pale silver. So right now, these were the single colors. If you were going to run just D12 current, just plain old D12, not Maharata, full Maharata D12, you'd be running white. But if you want to run the full non-polarized D12 frequency, you would run pale silver, which is the D11 from the antiparticle universe and the D12 from particle. Now, transmutation currents. The Rishik current. This comes through the Rajahuva body, a density 5, the primal light field body. It's the Rishik shield, dimensions 13, 14, and 15, which are called the Kira-shaped primal light fields. Phase 1 is turquoise. It's a pale turquoise. Phase 2 is a pale yellow. And phase 3 is a pale magenta, or that pale pink. These we would work with later. These are actually they call them transmutation currents. Because if you were able to actually bring in enough of them through your palm chakras, you can make stuff disappear. I mean, you could literally make cancer fall out of somebody's body fully. You could literally make an object disappear. And right now, we're not, even if we could all run this frequency, now indigos can run these frequencies through their palms. They have the extra DNA templates to do it. You would need 24 to 30, you need 36, I believe, to run the full spectrum of these, 36 strands to run the full spectrum. But you can run subharmonics of them in the meantime. But even though there are some people on planet called indigos that could run these things, nobody is allowed to run these things right now, because if the technologies were here right now, some indigos are as messed up as anybody else. If they were able to turn these currents on in their bodies, they would become lethal weapons. They could hurt themselves, and they could do a lot of damage on the planet. So right now, we're allowed to run these currents in a very specific format. We're allowed to run them in subharmonic form, and that's what we do when we do round tables and those kind of things. It's called the rainbow ray. We're being taught to bring in the rainbow ray, but it's going to be a long time before we're taught how to transmit at full strength through the palms, because that's too dangerous. But in the meantime, running the subharmonics is not dangerous. It just accelerates the whole Christos integration process. It accelerates all the other currents and helps straighten them out faster. Okay, now, current combining. When using triadic phase currents, each phase current, each one-dimensional current... Wait. Put that back, please. Thank you. I was reading. Man, I'll start that one over. When using triadic phase currents, each phase current is combined with the current running from the activated Maharic shield. So in order to run any of these, you have to activate your Maharic shield, bring up the pale silver current. Okay, that's the carrier wave. In combination with phase current, get this. This is where people, I've had some workshop people go, it's not hard, but it just kind of gives you a little twist on what am I doing? Okay, Maharic frequency, the current you're going to choose, the Maharic frequency in combination with the phase current from the harmonic above the phase current you are using. Gets tricky. Remember base tone, overtone, resonant tone, D1, D2, D3. If you are using if you want to run a red current, a full red current, which is D1 current through the body, you would need to activate, that's a bass tone current, bass tone, overtone, resonant tone. You would need to activate the next bass tone current up in the next density level up, which would be D4 green. So there's a combination of currents that you're going to be running when you run a phase current. When we learn to run Triadic Phase 1 current, Triadic Phase 1 is D4 current, the pure, all 12 subharmonics of the D4 current. Now to do that, you have to have the pale silver light, the D12 Maharic frequency carrier wave. Then you have to go one harmonic up directly from D4. Now you have D4, 5, 6, same harmonic. D7, 8, 9, 7. D7 is the other current. So a Triadic Phase 1 current, in order to be able to transmit it for healing purposes, would be a combination of pale silver, green, and violet. The violet current is what will allow the seal that holds the D4 current to release in the body so you can get it through. And it can get a little confusing, but it's really simple when you think about it. If you're running, say, the number 2 position current, if you want to run D2 current and you want to fully open that, you'd go up to D5, right? Okay, if you think bass tone, overtone, resonant tone, all the way up the stack, you need the bass tone above, the overtone above, the one directly above, and the harmonic above is the one that will release the seal on the one you're trying to run. So it's really not that hard. This is why, even though we're only going to teach you how to activate in the body Triadic Phase 1, you can use this knowledge to simply run the same exercise, but change the colors that we're going to run. Now there's a process that's used to activate the currents in the bodies, and if you wanted to activate a different current, you would simply change the 2 colors. You'd change, if you didn't want to run D4 green, if you wanted to run, say, D5 blue. Instead of green, you'd put the word blue in the exercise, and instead of violet, D7, you'd use D8, which is gold. So you'd be using blue and gold instead of green and violet. And figure it out yourself. This one's on page, what is that, 140 something, 148. Okay? This breaks it down for you. These are the color currents you'd be running. So if you want to run Triadic Phase 2, here's the color line. If you want Turic Phase 3, here's the color line. All right. So this chart's worth hanging on to and keeping, because as you go past just learning how to run the general currents, you may want to start playing with the other currents, and you may start to get guidance where, I have a feeling Triadic Phase 1 I shouldn't use for here. Maybe I should use Turic Phase 2. And then you go, oh, what was that? You look on your chart. Oh, that's right, that's what that was. Now, when we go through the process, there is a step-by-step process that's used. It's a visualization that's used to open the seals that will allow the currents to flow. In that exercise, you would if you wanted to change the current that you're running from what's running in the exercise, you would simply have to substitute the right colors. You'd always use pale silver, but you'd have to substitute the other 2 colors with the right combination that goes with the currents you're trying to run. Where'd he go? I lost my helper. Okay. All right, so that is on page 148, and that's very useful when you want to start playing with what currents you're going to run. Now, let me see what's next. Any what?
Are there any bad colors?
Bad colors. That's an interesting concept, bad colors. There's not bad colors, but there are colors that you can see in people's fields and things that are indicative of something interfering with and messing with the natural currents. When you start to see like really icky looking green slime pond scum colors, they're showing you that there is a lot of miasmic content. All right, miasms are antiparticle buildups in the particle field, which come from reversals of mathematical sequences in the natural template. So anything that has, if you see those colors, if you're starting to scan somebody, you start to see kind of icky, murky, kind of colors, they're telling you that there's a black content, okay, meaning the black color frequencies. Just like if you were going to take a pure pale yellow and if in your paint sets, if you're mixing paints, and you put a little bit of black in it, and it kind of made it all icky and kind of icky, dirty yellow looking. That dirty yellow is the type of color you would get on D2 if there was miasmic content. So there's also some really weird brownish colors that come out that have to do with combinations of different frequencies that are carrying miasms that are interconnected. So you can usually tell Now, I wouldn't say the colors themselves are bad. The colors are showing you frequencies that are convoluted. They're not mixed up right, like colors that were poorly mixed on a palette. But as far as running any of those, you wouldn't want to try to run them. You know, you wouldn't attempt to run them. There will be times when, not in this class, and probably not for the next 5 years, before we get the information down of how to begin cross-braiding, which means you'd be running 6 currents instead of 3, or maybe 9 instead of 3, and those kind of things. You might get some interesting colors then. So if you see, this is where you would learn, this is why they're not teaching it now. If we were going to learn to use braiding of multiple colors, you would go into some strange colors. You get some weird brown colors, but that doesn't mean they were bad. And to be able to use those kind of color combinations where you know what you're doing, you would need to be able to feel the energy signature behind them. You wouldn't be able to tell if it was a good thing or a bad thing by the color of it alone. So that's why they're not taking us into multiple braiding right now. And the color, like bad colors, no, there's not bad colors. They're just colors indicative of convolution in the templates that can mean negative things are happening. It can mean somebody is, hanging out in your field that doesn't belong there. It can mean you have a sickness or an illness in that area or something like that. All right, in answer to that question. Okay, where are we now? Are we getting ready to do it?
Oh, we're really at chapter 4 now. Do you want to do that summary? It's just a
do I
summary.
need to do that? It's just, we already talked about that, right? Yeah. Okay.
So we're under the field work now.
Yeah, field work. Here we go. Okay. Now we're going into chapter 4, field work. All right, these are the things we're going to learn in Chapter 4. And a lot of these, what I'm going to focus on here, because the most important thing that I can do for you as facilitating a workshop is to take you through the actual techniques, as opposed to reading and talking at you. All right, so because we have a lot of things that we're going to be covering today, we're going to work with, there's certain things that I'll have to read to you that are parts of, again, more parts of the anatomy that you need to know if you want to know how to run current. But there's a lot of stuff in between that's worth reading when you get home that I won't have time to cover, and you're going to be able to run the current even if you don't read it, but you'll be able to run it better if you do read it. Okay? We're going to talk about opening the healing channels for the Triadic Phase 1 current, which involves something called the Triadic sphere, Triadic cords, and Triadic balls. Now you could substitute the name of any current in front of those, because these are the process, the spheres, the cords, and the balls, by which you get your currents activated in the body, running through the arms, down the palms, so you can transmit them that way. Or you can actually do indirect induction, which is you can get them and collect them in the heart chakra and transmit them at the D4 astral level. And when you get really good at it, you can start moving that down and do it at D3 if you want to, or D2, or you can bring it up to D6, and you can transmit at any chakra level that you want to with indirect induction. But first we're going to learn how to open the healing channels. This is where it gets fun, because when you start to play with energy in your palms, you really start to begin to feel those currents running. When you get the currents opened and activated, and then start to breathe the currents to generate and build frequency, you'll actually find your hands start to move apart. Sometimes it'll be just a little, but if you're really using the breath and go, and you have the arm currents open, they'll go, oh, it's like, oh, neat. You can build balls of energy. You can also learn to throw them, but we don't teach that. But just in case you ever are in a dark parking lot and somebody's messing with you, Triadic Phase 1 current alone would be enough to, works better than mace. And it won't hurt them. See, once you get your palm chakras activated, you can, and the more you do it, like by using the procedure, after a while you'll find that you start the procedure and they just go boink, and they're going, ready, where you don't have to keep using the procedure. Unless you want to change current, where if you're used to running Triadic Phase 1, but you want to run something higher, then you're going to have to run through the procedure again to open those particular seals. But if you work with them for a while, the seals will stay open enough where just the intention that you want those palms to activate will activate them. But you have to set the program in and build up and help your body remember that that's what you're trying to teach it to do. It's really good to use these currents for lots of things. These currents we're learning here how to run them in our bodies so we can do healing facilitation for a client, let's say. But you can charge food with them to get rid of miasmic messes that are in the food that you eat. And believe me, anything with chemical preservatives is a template disaster. They have combined things that were never, ever intended to be combined together. And even if they don't make you sick on the outside, you're taking convoluted scalar wave imprints into your template through food, through water, through electromagnetic stuff that's flying through the air. Stand by a Xerox type machine for a while and just try to feel what it's making you feel like. And then go home and run your Maharic Shield really good and clear it out. Because there are things that we're picking up all the time. Now, we can help a lot by using two things. Using our palm chakras once we know how to run current. Using our Maharic Shield always to at least get our pillar up so we're running D12. But we can amplify that by using Kathara healing practices like indirect induction, which is once you get the currents activated, you build a ball of the current in your heart chakra and you and breathe more up from below your, from the Maharic current, bring more of that up and spread it out in your astral field. If you want to put it in your D2 field to clear your emotional body, you'd move it down to the second chakra. All right, these things, well, there's so many applications of Kathara healing. You don't just think of healing as a client. A mirror can be your client. A hamburger can be your client. Well, an animal can be your client. I've had people ask, can you use this on animals? Well, do you think animals have Kathara grids, or do they somehow manifest by a different structure? Everything has a Kathara grid. So you can temporarily reset part of the divine blueprint in anything or in any situation by running the currents. You can walk into a room, and if there's a mess going on that's a violent mess or something, you can literally simply stand in the corner very quietly, run a lot of your Maharic frequency, make balls of it in your chakras, and if it was a really bad event, make little balls about this big in each of your chakras and push. All right?
Tell me about Isis and Kathara.
Oh, he was suggesting I tell you about, we have two cats, Isis and Kathara. Talk about animals, do they have Kathara grids? Well, they get into this situation of throwing energy. And you can tell about Kathara, because you got Kathara. You want to tell? It's worth telling, because it tells you something about how animals are doing what the stuff we're trying to learn right now. Animals are doing it. Okay? All right, go ahead.
Well, what I really wanted to illustrate, which is when we have moments in the house when we're playing, just hanging out like you do, we have two cats which are quite adept at throwing balls of energy at each other. And we have a Bitzer that kind of walks along in a kind of elevated way like this. And we have a gorgeous Elohai white Persian. And the white Persian tends to be bullied rather by the other. And there's an occasion when we were hanging on the sofa and I was watching the bullying cat playing with the white Persian. And I didn't realize what I was doing, but I was doing then what we're about to run you through in a moment. And I was not even thinking about drawing the frequency into my heart center, forming a nice sphere. And I started to realize I was pushing this sphere of energy at the attacking cat. In a loving way. I was just thinking, Kathara, there's no need to be that way with Isis. Right. That's not nice.
Yeah, be nice.
I was pushing the sphere. And all of a sudden,
yeah, she was,
oh, look at that.
Yeah, she took off. Yeah, Isis was impressed.
More breath. And just gently introduce the energy. It's not being aggressive about it. And finally, Kathara goes, and off she goes.
Had enough. Yeah, I didn't do anything.
Where I want to go with this is that very same evening, this has happened 2 or 3 times, and that particular evening I recall, we were putting the house to bed. And we've been talking also about the gifts Selma had given us, which we discovered had a further gift within it. It's a crystal ball. And we decided that during the course of the next day we were going to deal with the crystal ball and its host. And so Shannon had already gone to the bathroom by then, and the cats were all happy again and everything else, and I'm just putting things away. And as I walked back across the room, this ball started to pick up with me. And I'll deal with the ball now. And I caught myself in mid-walk, and part of me knew that I should pull on my Maharic shield up to reinforce it before I pick the ball up. And the other part of me said, no, you don't really need that. Oh, Lord. So I really whipped the pillar real fast. And I did it at a spot halfway between the two places, between the ball and where I'd been. And as I was doing it, the guardian of this ball manifested in the sitting room. And it was like 12 feet tall. And I wondered when I'd have a direct confrontation in manifest form with the people who don't like what we do. And immedially, again, the same thing sprung to mind what I've been doing with the cats. And this is something I'm telling you guys to think about doing whenever you encounter these situations. I simply repeated the process. And I pulled energy again, formed a big sphere. I didn't panic. I just built a big sphere of energy. I just pushed it in the direction again lovingly, not in a fearful or intimidated way, at this thing whose head was going through the ceiling. I just said,
Bye-bye.
And he just left. And it was a lot bigger than me.
It works on people that are a lot bigger than you, too. The idea is, once you learn to run currents, you can do amazing things. It also helps to realize that there are amazing things going on all around you, half of which you probably wouldn't want to know, but you're better off knowing. When we were talking about the cats, the one cat that likes to beat up on the nice cat, she gets field attachments all the time. She'll go outside, she'll come back, and she does things like suck energy off your arm veins when you're sleeping. You can see her in her astral body. Cats have astral bodies. And she literally goes up and puts her lips up to your veins, your astral body veins, and drains energy. Somebody's been using her as a succubus. All right? There are things going on out there that you're better off knowing about, because if you know things like that, you don't go looking for it, but if something feels a little weird, it doesn't hurt to check if something weird going on, because if you know how to run current in your body, you don't have to wish it any harm at all, and you don't have to be afraid of it. You simply run current. When you're running D12 subharmonics, that's enough to make most things that don't have good intentions toward you run for cover, because the frequency is perceived as heat to them. If something has a reverse matrix template and you're running the right sequence in like the Divine Blueprint current, the Divine Blueprint current feels cool to people who are running the right mathematical sequences, but it feels like progressive degrees of heat to people who are running reverse sequences. Heat to the point where it makes them uncomfortable because it could shatter their templates. So they usually back off. So there's a lot of things you can do. You can help your food to be healthier for you. If you plant a garden, you can literally activate your palms and your heart chakra at the same time, go down, kneel down on the ground, and breathe current into the ground, and you can charge a whole area, and you'll get a feel of, all right, that's charged, that's not. Okay, you'll know how far between charges you have to do, and you can literally grow vegetables that will have the right Merkaba spin and much better, healthier templates. There are things that, if they were employed on large levels, we could literally change the world with just knowing how to run our palm chakras and our heart chakra frequency.